All right, everybody, it's time for another edition of Robinson Responds. So we had the Thursday night football game between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions, an NFC North rivalry game. And for the last several decades, we've had some classic games between the Packers and the Lions, and this was another one in the chapter of this great rivalry between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. So Detroit beats Green Bay 34-31. For the Lions, Jake Bates kicked the game-winning field goal. Aside from that, quarterback Jared Goff completed 32 out of 41 passes for 283 yards. He had 3 touchdown passes and an interception. Also, David Montgomery, he had a rushing touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had a receiving touchdown. Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta played well as Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Tim Patrick scored 2 receiving touchdowns. On the losing side for the Packers, Jordan Love completed 12 out of 20 passes for 206 yards, and he had a touchdown pass. Josh Jacobs, 3 rushing touchdowns in this contest. Also, Tucker Kraft scored a touchdown in the contest. So, Detroit and Green Bay, first half, it belonged to Detroit. The second half, Green Bay got a second win, and they made it in a competitive game. But when Detroit was in field goal range, you talk about a risky but a gutsy call by Lions head coach Dan Campbell. They went for it on 4th down. It was 4th and inches, and instead of bringing Jake Bates on to kick the field goal and leave a little bit of time left on the clock for Jordan Love and the Packers offense to do their thing, Coach Campbell decides to go for it on 4th and inches. And it was almost a snafu, because if you watched that game, or for some of you that didn't watch the game, what happened was Jared Goff, he fell on the handoff, and it was almost a disaster, but he was able to hand the ball off to running back David Montgomery, and Montgomery was able to get the first down. They were able to run down the clock. Jake Bates comes on, kicks the game-winning field goal. Lions win 34-31. So what does this say about both teams? I'll start off talking about Green Bay. Despite the loss, Green Bay is still a team, in my opinion, that is a force to be reckoned with. In January, they're going to give teams fits. If they can hold on and keep their wild card spot, they will give teams fits in the playoffs. We saw it last year when the Packers beat the Cowboys, and even in that close divisional game, which they lost to the San Francisco 49ers. Green Bay is still a team to be feared. Jordan Love is playing at a high level right now. Josh Jacobs is a gem of a running back, and he fits Green Bay's system so well. They've got a great tight end with Tucker Kraft. So Green Bay, tough loss, but I'm not worried about them, because when January hits, they are going to give teams fits. As for the Detroit Lions, the one worry that I have is the defensive side. They have a lot of injuries, more so on the defensive side. I'm not worried about Detroit offensively. Jared Goff, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, even Tim Patrick. I'm not worried about Detroit offensively. They're going to get the job done. Defensively, I have concerns. There's a lot of injuries on that team, but they've got enough offensive firepower to weather the storm. And hey, what's not to love about head coach Dan Campbell, right? AKA MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell, right? What's not to love about him? In such a short amount of time, he's been able to change the culture of that team, going from worst to first. And there were a lot of seasons when the Detroit Lions were not good. But this is a renaissance for this Lions team. This is a continued renaissance, or a continued revival for the Detroit Lions. And it's going to be interesting who will get the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Lions are still playing at a high level, but the Philadelphia Eagles are just something else. And it's going to be neck and neck on who will get the number 1 seed in the NFC between the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. Offensively, Detroit is better. Overall, I think Philadelphia has the better team. The Eagles' defense is much better. Now, I will say this, Detroit, If they get the number one seed, all roads will lead to Detroit in the NFC. If Philadelphia gets the number one seed, that can pose some problems because outdoors, Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia in January, man, you've got Saquon Barkley, who, in my opinion, should win the league MVP this year. But you've got Saquon Barkley, you've got Jalen Hurts and company. It's a lot, man. But Detroit, again, the Lions, risk takers. That was a gutsy call on that 4th and inches by head coach Dan Campbell, but it paid off tremendously, and the Lions were able to win 34-31. So defensively, Detroit has some gaps. They have some issues on the defensive side, primarily with injuries, but offensively, they're fine. Jared Goff playing at a high level. Detroit's offensive line, such as Penei Sewell, and of course, you've got Frank Ragnow, who's been that veteran on that line for quite a while now. Detroit, they're going to be good, man, and they're ready to compete come January when the playoffs start. But don't sleep on the Packers neither, because the Packers, they've got something to say about that as well. But again, the final score, it was a good one on Thursday Night Football, with the Detroit Lions being the Green Bay Packers, 34-31. Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.